Next on Worcester News tonight, local schools weighing in on the possibility of discipline following scheduled walkouts to protest gun violence. Plus, a Worcester woman receives the key to the city in honor of her 100th birthday. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. Several big-ticket items on Worcester's City Council agenda tonight. The Council approving a more than $194 million loan for the construction of the new South High School tonight. The city says this allows them to enter an agreement with the Massachusetts School Building Authority to put the school on the South High's current Apricot Street campus. City Manager Edward Augustus says this is an important investment for Worcester.
The current South High School was built with open classrooms. It's a concept that doesn't really work, doesn't meet the needs of the students there, and doesn't meet the needs for the future educational program. So this really is an opportunity for us to, over the next few years, invest in a school that's going to meet the needs of the future.
Estimates show the city will be paying 45% of the project's total cost, with the state picking up the rest. Plans are for the new school to be completed by fall of 2021. The majority of school districts across central Massachusetts saw four-year graduation rates increase in 2017. According to the new data from the state, Worcester's public high schools hit a 12-year high to more than 83%. Southbridge, a level 5 underperforming school, saw a big jump in graduation rates, up 7.7% from 2016. In central Massachusetts, Westboro schools had the highest graduation rate at 98.3%, and Webster reported the lowest at 72.1%. For many of Worcester's college students, spring break is approaching. And while many have their trips already booked, others may be looking for last-minute deals. AAA says some of the most popular destinations this year include Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Hawaii. Spokeswoman Mary McGuire says there are many great last-minute deals out there, but if you're not careful, you could fall subject to a scam.
Buy cheapy, get cheapy is probably a good motto to stick with. You also want to be aware of internet deals or deals that you might see on social media. You want to make sure that you are always contracting with a reputable travel agent, a reputable travel organization, or a really reputable website.
McGuire says to do your research, always check for hidden costs or fees. This weekend at Gillette Stadium, AAA is holding a travel marketplace. Travel counselors will be there along with more than 100 vendors representing thousands of destinations around the world. School districts across the nation are taking a stance on whether or not to discipline students who plan to take part in planned walkouts next month. Their 17-minute protest against gun violence will honor the lives lost in the school shooting in Florida. Our Rosalind Flaherty spoke to a superintendent today and has his reaction.
Dudley Charlton Regional School Superintendent Greg Desto says students will not be punished for peaceful protests against gun violence.
We're looking to engage our students in discussions. We've had a couple of students come to us and express an interest in participating.
A national school walkout is scheduled for March 14th. The movement comes after 17 students were murdered at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Some high schools across the country are threatening to suspend students if they participate.
As long as it's done respectfully and correctly, there shouldn't be any consequences.
Several colleges in Worcester, including Clark, WPI, and Holy Cross, have taken to social media to let students know their acceptances will not be affected by suspensions.
Peaceful protest is not going to rise to the level where we'd revoke someone's admission. We look at who they are as a person, we look at their academic credentials, we look at who they are outside of the classroom.
Rich Raymond says all schools should be on the same page. His granddaughter is a junior at Burncoat High School in Worcester.
I believe it is their absolute right to do that. I do support it.
Meanwhile, Desto says over the next week they will work together with students to create a meaningful demonstration.
We're proud of our students when they stand up for what's right, but within the framework of a public school, there's got to be order. And so we've got to work with them to create something that makes sense and that's something that's safe and educational.
Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
Tomorrow, classes will resume at a Florida high school for the first time since a recent mass shooting. This as we continue to learn more details about the investigation. Dan Sheneman has the latest.
Signs of heartbreak, but also hope and healing in Parkland, Florida, nearly 2 weeks after a gunman took the lives of 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. As teachers prepared for students to return, they paused for a moment of silence for 17 seconds to honor each of the victims killed in the attack. The shooting sparking a national debate about gun control.
We need to pass reforms to make it virtually impossible for anyone who has a mental illness or danger to themselves ever to use a gun.
While questions persist about the response of some in law enforcement. Scott Peterson, the campus resource officer who did not enter the building and engage the gunman, has defended his actions. Peterson says he believed the gunshots originated outside the school building, and he followed procedure to seek cover and assess the situation. The Broward County Sheriff has been adamant Peterson should have entered the school in an effort to save lives. Other responses are being honored. Broward County leaders expressing their thanks today to the officer who captured and arrested confessed gunman Nicholas Cruz.
I knew that I was coming upon someone that could possibly be armed. I knew that there was individuals that had passed away already at this killer's hands.
Officer Leonard says he hopes what he did will help bring healing to the families hurting in the wake of the Parkland shooting.
Charlton police received a 911 call Monday morning, but the caller couldn't talk due to a dangerous situation. This has the department reminding residents exactly what to do when making a silent emergency call. Our Chandler Walsh has the details.
When someone can't talk after dialing 911, help still comes.
We cannot abandon a 911 call.
The Charlton Police Department says most silent 911 calls are accidental dials, but they can also be when people can't speak because of illness, injury, or they're in danger. Police are reminding their residents of important procedures in a Facebook post. Officer Richard McGrath says they received a silent 911 call Monday morning.
The individual that was involved dialed 911, placed the phone down, and walked away from it. And the dispatcher was able to listen in on what was going on in the background.
In silent calls, people can dial numbers for different responses when prompted by dispatch.
If you need an ambulance, press 3.
But even if numbers aren't pressed, a dispatcher investigates the call, and in Charlton, 2 officers arrive at the scene.
We investigate all 911 calls just to make sure that there is something or nothing going on.
Gail Foley has been a dispatcher for 26 years and answered Monday morning's silent call. She says listening closely helps her gather information.
We're trying to figure out if it is a true 911 call, an emergency, or if it's a butt dial or a child playing with the phone. The main thing is just to listen.
McGrath says the more information from dispatch, the better the response. The department says it keeps officers and callers safer.
The unknown is very difficult to plan for. Usually you're running all the different possibilities through your mind as you're going to the call.
Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
The race to replace Massachusetts Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas is losing a candidate. Lancaster resident Steve Kerrigan announcing he's ending his bid for the 3rd district seat. He says he will instead focus on other ways to impact his community. Kerrigan was the Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor back in 2014. He also previously served as CEO of the Democratic National Convention. His withdrawal leaves more than a dozen other candidates vying for Tsongas' seat this fall. The city of Worcester holding a special ceremony Tuesday in honor of Jennie DeCicio's 100th birthday. In front of her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, Mayor Joseph Petty presented her with the key to the city. Jennie grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, but moved to Worcester when she married her husband after the war in 1945. She still lives in their family home. She spent years working at City Hospital and would volunteer her time sewing pillows for patients at Boston Children's Hospital. She says she's had a full life and shares a few secrets to her success.
Got to be good to one another. That, to me, is very important. And to live a normal, healthy life. You gotta have nice friends that cooperate with you.
Words to live by. Jennie says you also have to keep moving and stay busy.